Hello, friends. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. Ah, it is a beautiful Michigan day today. Cannot wait to get outside. Pretty sure I got all my deliveries for the day, so we should be able to get this episode recorded without any dog interruptions. Although you never know. But garbage has came, mail lady has came, Amazon has came, and UPS has came. Don't have anything coming from FedEx, but hey, if they drive by, those dogs are going to bark. So we shall see. And I have been having an amazing week of client calls this week. And so today's topic was actually inspired by a client conversation that I was having with one of my female clients around what if I just don't want to have an orgasm? What if on that day I'm just choosing not to have an orgasm and my partner reacts some type of way? And in general, I see this showing up in male-female relationships. So generally, that's the context that I'll be speaking to today. But primarily, it really, whatever gendered person you're in a relationship with, it really comes down to the female partner that I'm hearing this the most from. It's the female partner that is just some days feeling, well, I'm going to go over many reasons, but she just might not be feeling orgasm that day. And so I want to give you some reasons why that might be. And then for any men that are listening or people that have a female partner that are listening, giving you some tips around this in ways that you can really just help this situation and get to the bottom of it and get to the why behind it. And I think that this is great because, to start this episode off, you hear me say this all the time, but we have to take responsibility for our own pleasure. So if you're being intimate with somebody that is choosing not to have an orgasm, that is her taking ownership. That is them taking ownership of her pleasure in that moment. She's doing what she feels is best in that moment. And for then the male counterpart in this relationship, you have to take ownership for your own pleasure as well. So what happens? What can you do in that situation if the time comes and it comes down to it and she's not wanting to have an orgasm? So we are going to talk through those things, and I think that this conversation is also going to help you with the attunement piece of intimacy. Attunement meaning you are in tune, if you will, with your partner's body. You're picking up on her or their body language, the nonverbal cues, the breathing, the eye movement, like these things. These can all help with you feeling in tune and in alignment with your partner. So here we go. Let's jump into it. So what happens if she just doesn't want an orgasm? Okay. And my first tip with you is going to be to really get curious. So again, I'm primarily speaking to male, female. So if she comes and says, experience missing, I'm just, babe, I'm just not feeling it. Can we be done? Can we pause? Whatever. Why that might be. And for you to be able to kind of get curious around this, and when I say get curious, I don't mean in the moment be like, well, why, what's going on? Don't you like me? Aren't you attracted to me? Aren't you turned on? Like, why do you want to stop? And that's the part of my end conversation here, is to check your ego a bit up, but we'll get to that. But really getting curious, and this can be a conversation that happens outside of the bedroom. Generally, that's the best time to have conversations around sex, is when you're not actually having sex or having the intimate moment. Well, sexually intimate moment, I will say, because we know now intimacy can look in many different forms. And in a lot of ways, partners are going to feel more connected to each other when they're taking the time to be intimate in a way that I'm saying intimate in terms of vulnerability and having open lines of communication and talking through things. So if you are sitting down and you're talking with your partner and this conversation comes up and you say, hey, I've noticed, the last couple of times that we've been intimate with each other, the last couple of times that we've been having sex, that you've kind of declined on having an orgasm. And I'm just curious, why that might be and what's going on. I'm really wanting to be your teammate in this. I'm wanting to experience your orgasm together. And a couple of reasons where this could be coming from her. Actually, I have several reasons here that where this might be coming. And this came up previously on a client conversation this week, where the first thing, she just might not be feeling in her body. For women, we have this conversation of safety and what does it mean for us to feel safe. Women, we are literally born to be on the defensive. We are born to feel like we have to protect ourselves from something, whereas men are born to be the protectors. And so when women are constantly on this defense, and it's not to say that we don't feel safe with you particularly, maybe that's the case, within sexual partners, but within partnerships, generally, safety is present. But when I say safe, for her to feel safe in her body, that generally means that she feels safe to express. She feels safe to be. She feels safe to be herself, to be in her flow. And so if she's feeling kind of out of body, more so in her head and out of her body, then she might be feeling distracted. She might be having these other things going on in her head that are distracting her from what's happening. And so it might come to that point where she's just feeling like, oh, she kind of throws in the towel, like it's a lost cause at this point. If we keep going, like I'm never going to have that orgasm. And I know in many male-female relationships, and how I really think that it should be, is that the woman, she should really be coming first. So what happens in this dynamic is that then now the men are feeling this pressure. You're trying to get her to orgasm. You're trying to make her orgasm. Should be using air quotes when I say that. But again, we all have to take ownership for our own pleasure. So with her not feeling in her body and feeling more so in her head and feeling distracted, she might just be in that feeling of just wanting again to give up and move on to the next thing. And that kind of falls into my second point here, why she might not be wanting to have an orgasm. And it could be that she feels like she's taking too much time. There is this concept and just the way that we think of self-pleasure and sex with people, penetrative sex and whatnot. And it's like we go in and we think, okay, I need to get from point A to point B as quick as possible. I need to get her to an orgasm as quick as possible. And, and then for women, when we're giving men pleasure, if we're giving them a blowjob or a hand job, I'm trying to get them from point A to point B as quick as possible. And I urge you to slow down. Slow down. There can be so much pleasure that happens in between leading up to the orgasm. So for the woman that might be kind of tapping out and saying like, I'm not wanting to have an orgasm, go ahead and finish. Let's end this thing, whatever that looks like. It could be that she has that pressure on herself that she's taking too long, that it's taking too much time for her to orgasm. And so for you to be just that reminder of her that it's okay and that you're there for her pleasure, you want to witness her pleasure, and that there is no time limit to this. There is no such thing generally as taking too much time when it comes to orgasm, especially if pleasure is present during that time that it is taking to get you to orgasm. So the other thing that might come up here is that she might not know how to have an orgasm. So if this is, maybe you're in a new relationship with somebody and this is coming up for you, but maybe she doesn't know how. Maybe she never has had an orgasm before, and so that thought of having an orgasm in that situation, it buds up as a challenge for her. It gets a little crunchy for her. So, so she might not know how, and also she may have been faking orgasms in the past. I'm sorry if you hear baby barking. Of course, somebody drove by. We live on a corner house, and somebody drove by and honked the horn at one of my neighbors. So they think that we have guests. We don't. Anyways, she may have been faking orgasms in the past, and she listened to a podcast recently about not faking orgasms, or saw something on social media, because I have a podcast actually coming up on that about to stop faking orgasms. So yes, she may have been faking orgasms in the past, and then maybe the time has come that she's like, no more. I'm done doing this. I'm done faking orgasms to make you feel better about yourself, essentially. Or I'm done faking orgasms to rush the process, to stop the process. And that, in a lot of ways, is her, again, taking ownership of her pleasure, her taking ownership of her body by not faking orgasms. So that could be a reason. She also may not know how it works. You know, contrary to belief, penetration does not have to be present for a female to have an orgasm. But what we see in porn and things that we see, you know, in society and how we are taught or how we have seen that sex and orgasm happens is from penetrative sex. And if not penetrative sex, oral sex. This is a huge conversation that I have with women in my friendships, in my work that I do with clients. But for a lot of women, experiencing oral is not as enjoyable as we have seen it to be enjoyable in porn. So that with this conversation, she might not know how it works. So if she is, let's say if you're doing oral stimulation or manual stimulation, you know, fingering or eating out, and her body starts to feel that buildup that happens before an orgasm happens, she might be freaked out, not knowing like what this is. How can this be happening to my body if penetration is not happening? How can this be happening to my body if he's not going down on me or if they're not going down on me, you know? And this can come up too in the space of when we talk about energetic orgasms. You know, how can this be happening to my body if no touch is even happening, you know, or no, you know, stimulation isn't even happening? So not knowing how it works could be a piece of this, or experiencing orgasm in a new way at the first time. Like for the first time somebody experiencing a G-spot orgasm, you know, we get that sensation that we have to pee generally, and a lot of times women then are like, "Ooh, stop, I gotta pee, stop," you know. And so there just could be some confusion around her own body and the way that orgasm works in that moment. Okay. Yeah, and again, going back to it, she feels like she's taking too much time. This I want to mention too, it could also be, and I work with so many women around their shame and guilt around pleasure and around orgasm. So she could be experiencing something around her self-worth. She could be dealing with this, or this could be something that she would want, she needs to look into and heal as a part of her sexuality. Not feeling worthy of orgasm or not feeling deserving of an orgasm. This could be something that is present for your partner. And if then it comes down to a case of, you know, you going down on her, and maybe that's what she thinks that she needs to have an orgasm. So if it's a particular day where maybe she hasn't taken a shower yet, or she just got home from the gym, or she feels like she smells bad or tastes bad, maybe then that could be a reason for her to be like, no, you know, I'm good, not right now. But she doesn't want to just come out and vocally say that it might be you know, it is a hygiene thing because of uncomfort or again, shame that could be present, embarrassment. So there's so many reasons why she might be choosing not to have an orgasm. And, you know, another piece of this is, again, for the men listening, and again, I'm primarily speaking to male-female relationships, but it might be a case where in your relationship, maybe you've been a little bit selfish when it has come to your intimacy, and maybe you're someone that has, you know, finished first or finished before she has, and maybe there has been a recent transition in your relationship where the tables have turned and now you're wanting her to experience pleasure first and have that first orgasm before you finish. And again, when coming back to the selfishness, it's like we've all done it in a way. We've all had that selfishness, and I know this has been present for a lot of men that I've worked with. Again, you're trying to get from point A to point B as quick as possible when it comes to your own masturbation. So then when sex is happening, that your body is wired to think the same, and you get from point A to point B as quick as possible. But generally during sex, men are trying to not come, right? You're trying to last as long as you can, but the way that you're masturbating is not wiring your body to think the same way. This brings me back to my point of slowing down when it comes to your own self-pleasure as well. Okay. And So yeah, if this selfishness has been showing up, it's like there might be a point where she's just kind of given up. She's given up to the thought or the idea of having an orgasm during intimacy with you, and there are ways of changing that, which I'll get into. Um, and the last one, it could just be that just orgasm isn't for her. Some women just don't, orgasm is not a priority for them. They want to be physically intimate with you because of the connection maybe that they feel, or they know that you feel the connection, but generally an orgasm, like it still feels good to them what is happening and they like that closeness to you, but orgasm is not a top priority of theirs. So again, her taking ownership of her body and stating orgasm is not a priority for me, you want to respect that. You want to give her that and allow her that for that time being. And lastly, she just might not be in the mood for one. I hate to say it like that, but the way that the female desire works is in the way that we are within our menstrual cycles. Like it could just be that we are just not in the mood, not in the mood. So this is another reason why, cycle tracking can come into play, and carving out time to have deep, vulnerable, connective conversations with each other can be helpful when it comes to this concept of what if she doesn't want to have an orgasm. But there are things, as I said, there are things that you can do, that partners can do to help with this and really become their teammates. And that's really what you want to be. You want to be your partner's teammate when it comes to their pleasure, and you want to be a great orgasm teammate, So for you, that you have the partner that is experiencing this and not wanting to have an orgasm, learning more about female orgasm is the first place to start. Learning more about the fact that it doesn't have to be penetrated in order for her to have an orgasm. The fact that 85% of women need clitoral stimulation to have an orgasm, or prefer clitoral stimulation to have an orgasm. Where the G spot is located, how to trigger a G spot orgasm. Learning more about female orgasm can be a huge, huge, huge benefit to you. And then to go along with that, learning some great techniques to be able to give your female partner a great orgasm, whether that is going to be through fingering or oral stimulation or penetrative sex. And if you have not yet got this masterclass that I have, the masturbation masterclass that I have, it's called How to Flick the Bean and the Peen. And this is available at rachelmaine.com under the Work With Me tab. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes for you. But this is a great, great masterclass if you are looking to have a better understanding about either the female body or the male body. Because while yes, I'm talking about this primarily in the stance of a woman not wanting to have an orgasm, you might be in the case of a relationship where it's flipped, and it may be the man that is not wanting to have an orgasm. And this could be because of erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, many of the reasons that I've stated so far for the women as well. So this masterclass that I did with another sex coach friend of mine, also named Rachel, I covered the female pleasure part and techniques to give female pleasure, and she covered the male genital parts and how to give a male pleasure. So there's a lot of different hand job techniques in there. There's a lot of different fingering techniques in there. A really, really good explanation of female orgasm and arousal and desire. And I would highly, highly recommend that if you're listening to this and you're just wanting to experience those new techniques and learn these new techniques, but also if you are in the relationship where you're finding that your partner is generally not into having an orgasm and you're wanting to become a better teammate for her or for them. So learning more about the orgasm, learning good techniques is highly recommended. Another piece of this, so if she's falling in the category of taking too much time or not feeling worthy or out of her body, affirmations can be such a huge help. So in the moment, reminding her that she is beautiful, reminding her that she is sexy, reminding her that there is no time length on this, that you are there with her, you are there present with her, that you love, seeing her in this way, you love being intimate with her, and you love connecting with her. And so reminding her that she is beautiful and that she is worthy and that she is deserving of this. And letting her know that you want to be her teammate in this, and again, if you've been somebody in the past where this has happened and you've gotten frustrated, it might be a little bit of like a shell shock for her if you start showing up in this different way, giving her affirmations, coming into the situation more educated, trying new techniques and things like that. But really, she wants to feel like you are her teammate. And so reminding her that you're there, that you got her, is going to be a huge help. And then in saying that, as I mentioned, in the earlier parts of this, checking your ego. I've heard from a lot of men that, I can't feel pleasure unless she has an orgasm, or in a lot of ways, what this comes down to is that men don't feel adequate, or they don't feel that sex was successful if their partner is not having an orgasm. So checking your ego a bit on this, and again, knowing that she's taking ownership for her pleasure, you're taking ownership for your pleasure, and not putting that pressure on her, not getting upset in the situation, being more understanding of her situation, as I said, then creating time and having intentional time outside of being intimate with each other to have a conversation around why this might be happening for her, and giving her that space to really open up and be vulnerable with you can be tremendously helpful. But at the end of the day, as I said, both people taking ownership of their own pleasure, you've got to let her make her decision. If it comes down to the time where, again, she's just not in the mood for it, or any of these other reasons, if she's just not wanting the orgasm in that moment, she's not wanting the orgasm in that moment. Yes, you can try all of these things, but even after trying all these things, if it's still a no for her, she's still just a no, I'm good. Try your hardest to accept that and be understanding of that. I can't stress that enough. Again, taking that pressure off and not adding on to likely the years and years and years of generational shame and guilt that she has built up in herself around sexuality. So, and I will say, if you are listening to this and you are the partner in the relationship that you're generally like, nah, I'm good on the orgasm, and this is something that you're wanting to work through, please, I would love to work with you. This is, again, these are common conversations that I'm having with clients that I'm working with. And so I'm very well equipped in helping you through this when it comes to coaching. And if this is a thing for you of just not wanting to orgasm, I'm willing to guess that there are some things that that shame is coming up and guilt is coming up that you're wanting to work through, that is definitely present in your life. And so working with a sex coach or a relationship coach like myself, that is what I do. These are the conversations, again, that I'm having on a daily basis. So I would love to help you through that, help you get to a side where more pleasure and more orgasms are occurring for you, and that you feel safe to receive those things, and you feel safe to give those things to your partner as well. So in my work, I work primarily with women, but I also do work with men and couples as well. So if that is something that is of interest to you, under that same Work With Me tab, you can click the link to have a free consultation call with me, and we can just talk through whether it's coaching or maybe one of my programs would be a good fit for you. I have many options for people that are looking to do this work. So definitely, utilize that free call, and I can give you what I have, offer you what I have that I think will help with this or whatever else it is that you might be experiencing within your intimacy or relationship. So again, check out that rachelmain.com under the Work With Me tab, and the How to Flip the Bean and the Peen Masterclass is going to be a really, really good resource for you around this. And also just continuing to listen to this podcast, other sex podcasts, reading books around sexuality, just to help normalize some of these things for you and just give you a new lens. The sex positive lens really is how I describe it, giving you that new lens to look through when it comes to sexuality and relationships. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to get out there and enjoy this beautiful weather, looking across the canal at some of my neighbors outside playing in the yard with their dogs, and that is looking good to me. I think I'll take the dogs for a walk now. We'll enjoy that as well. So thank you so much for continuing to listen to this podcast, y'all. If you love this, please, please, please leave a review, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You have no idea how much that helps the podcast to grow and get it into the ears of more and more people. So either leave a review or, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate that as well. Okay, y'all. Until next time, I will catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.